We use social media all the time. Applications like Facebook and Twitter have transformed into more than just platforms to share daily updates or post funny pictures of cats. People all over the world now get their news from social media and run certain parts of their lives based on the information with which they're presented. Are these platforms always looking out for our best interests? And if they weren't, would we even be able to stop them? Let's say you're browsing Facebook. You scroll through your newsfeed and notice that someone has posted some extremely hateful content. Social media sites often allow people to flag posts such as these in an effort to keep inappropriate content off of people's feeds. This feature is nice and may help solve our problem, but when we flag something, how important is our request? How much can we actually change our Facebook feeds? When we see something wrong with our social media, our request for change most likely ends up in front of some sort of support team. Unfortunately, the supportive individual most likely can't help us, so the rest of the company has to get involved. If a user found something truly horrible happening online, the support request would have to be passed through multiple hands and picked up by a development team at the company. Even if thousands of users all requested the same change, the inquiry would have to bounce between managers, senior managers, or perhaps even a CEO before being considered valuable enough to tackle. At which point, the task trickles back down the corporate structure. This is really only the case for requests that come from the bottom of a corporate structure or from the users of its product. If the board of directors at a company like Facebook wanted something done, they could easily set it as a high priority item and send it all the way down the chain. This paradigm holds true for all corporations. Most people operate under the assumption that corporations do have their best interests at heart. Facebook may as well be a utopia for friendly business people to usher in the future. Unfortunately, even Google's slogan of "do the right thing" is subject to someone's interpretation of the right thing. It's easy to imagine a scenario where this corporate power can be abused, so let's think one up. It's not that unbelievable to imagine that Facebook's new CEO, while being a wealthy, influential business figure, believes that all Muslims are evil. The top levels of the company could order divisions to censor information advocating for Muslim rights, and users would have no way of knowing, especially if Facebook is their main news source. Even more frighteningly, teams could be directed to morph recommendation algorithms in a way that ends up recommending seemingly credible news to everyone that furthers their racist agenda. In fact, decisions like this have been made by Facebook throughout its lifetime. Certain news sites' pages have been temporarily shut down, with Facebook citing pretty vague reasoning, only to be turned back on days later. Even specific articles have been deemed fake news by Facebook's team of news curators, for reasons that many think were politically motivated. Social media companies themselves, however, are not the only ones to use their platform in immoral ways. Wealthy companies and governments have used both Facebook and Twitter to produce targeted advertising aimed at manipulating voter attitudes in major political decisions. In one instance, using data Facebook sold to them, Cambridge Analytica was able to figure out who was on the fence concerning a presidential election and target those users with advertisements tailored to their psychological profiles in order to nudge their opinions towards favoring a certain candidate. Certainly, social media companies can't be the first ones to do things like this. Other institutions must have structures with top-down direction, a monopoly on their industry, and almost no ways for regular people to influence them, right? Well, yes, but unfortunately the most popular examples of systems just like this are authoritarian governments. Most dictatorships, however, have to work really hard to do what social media companies do. So really, censorship and propaganda from, say, the Egyptian government pales in comparison to what social media companies could do very easily. If push came to shove, would existing governments be able to do anything to curb the power of social media companies? Well, we've recently seen the United States Congress give it a try. They attempted to question and admonish Facebook for its implications in election manipulation due to its sale of tons of private user data. However, the inquiry fell short of being effective because, among a host of other reasons, the committee doing the questioning didn't have a good understanding of the underlying technology at all. Given all of this, is there anything that could change things? It appears that we're safe so far because executives at least seem to have our best interests in mind, for now. One possibility is that we could capitalize on this favorable setup to request that social media companies put in protections against potentially malevolent future CEOs or board members. Public pressure can sometimes do a lot to change company actions. If all else failed, an effective way to squeeze monopolies in the past has been economic pressure through boycott. Deleting our accounts wouldn't stop companies from selling our data, but we could at least put an end to their gathering of new data. Governments came up with democracy as a way to manage power to some extent. It would be interesting to see a corporation come up with a similar solution to give some power back to the people it influences. Very few companies even allow their employees to elect managers or executives, let alone allow general people to vote. We as people do a pretty good job of calling for ends to autocracies when they exist in government, but so far we've let the corporate sector freely pursue nearly as much power as they can get their hands on. It's important for us, as users of such powerful technologies, to have a voice in how they're used, especially when they have the power to affect us without our consent or knowing. Our voices can be louder than we imagine, and should be heard not just by our governments, but by powerful companies too. Social media has the capability to be a tool for much more good than bad. Together, we should collectively focus on building the social media that we ourselves would be proud to use.